The Dave Hooker Show, represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorneys. Play to win, banksjones.com.
The Dave Hooker Show. A presentation of Off the Hook Sports. Objective insight, expertise, top guests. Available on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the Off the Hook Sports app. Download now for free. Also available on offthehooksports.com.
I compute and obey.
Now to Dave Hooker.
Ready.
Welcome to the program on this Monday, the Monday after Tennessee falls short against Georgia. Caleb, let me ask you, did they fall short or get hammered? Because if you look at the final score, some people in the college football playoff committee that don't pay attention might say got hammered. We'll get into that and more, but Caleb, initially to that question, what would be your reaction?
I would say they fell short, but they fell short significantly enough to where even, like, you may say watch the game or not, but if you did watch the game, you could easily see why there's an argument that they may not belong in the college football playoff.
Okay,
put it that way.
Nope.
That they may put it this way: they didn't look like they're good enough to win it all. And if the whole point of a playoff is crowning a champion, they don't look like they're capable.
Okay, so what are Tennessee's biggest problems? I wrote a column about Joey Halsley, and we'll visit with Jacob Warren a little bit later in the program about that. And we know that Alex Golish is at South Florida. He's not lighting it up, but I have a contention that those two parties in Josh Heupel and Alex Golish are the greater when they're together. The sum is greater than the individual parts. And I want to get into that with Jacob Warren. Also, Tennessee's basketball team beats Austin Peay. The Lady Vols beat Liberty and pick up a 5-star prospect stat of the day this day in Tennessee sports history. As we go ahead and dive into it, it's today's tough question brought to you by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com.
Today's tough question. Take a side. Take a stand. The Dave Hooker Show, a presentation of offthehooksports.com.
It's a fun question on our YouTube poll question. Biggest flop of the weekend right now is 50-50 Vols and Mike Tyson. Oh, that was sad. I don't even think it's close. I think one was orchestrated. I think it's big time Mike Tyson, but I thought I would throw that out there. But today's tough question, Caleb, is this. Is Tennessee a college football playoff team? I'm going to just lay it out there as simple as I can because I want you to go with it where you would like to go. And also, I want to hear comments from the message board. Please click that like and subscribe button. So, Caleb, just as simple as that. Is Tennessee a college football playoff team? Then we'll dig into why or why not.
Okay. Are we asking, are they a college football playoff team quality-wise or based on the resume and how the rankings go, should they be in?
You go where you want to go.
Okay. On paper, I think there is an argument on both sides as of right now. For those who don't know, there are 4 locked-in Big Ten teams: Indiana, Penn State, Ohio State, and Oregon. That's the only thing that'll happen is one less team will get in if Indiana falls this weekend. That part's clear. There are also, with BYU losing over the weekend, there's going to be no more than one automatic bid from the Big 12 and the ACC. That's done. That's over. So, yeah, 4 locked-in Big Ten teams, 2 auto bids from other conferences. Obviously, the SEC champion auto bid, which would be 7, and then the group of 5 auto bid, which would be 8. Then there's Notre Dame, which would be 9, which leaves room for 3 at-large SEC teams. Let's assume Texas is like the champion at this point because they're the only one with 1 loss. Okay, fair enough. Then with 3, you would have to pick between 4 two-loss SEC teams: Georgia, Tennessee, Ole Miss, Alabama, Texas A&M. 5 two-loss SEC teams for 3 spots. Now, again, Texas and Texas A&M are going to play each other in 2 weeks. That could sort itself out. You can knock Texas A&M out. So the question really comes down to Georgia 10-2, Alabama 10-2, Tennessee 10-2, and Ole Miss 10-2. Ole Miss beat Georgia. Georgia beat Tennessee. Tennessee beat Alabama. Alabama also beat Georgia, which is going to make this really hard for the committee to determine.
Okay, so let me go back to something you said. Do you think there is any chance that the SEC gets 5 teams in the college football playoff? Because then Tennessee's in.
Yes. Yes, there's a very good chance. One, I'm not like, this is assuming chalk goes, but I think Indiana is going to get blown out by Ohio State. And also, Dave, I'm not entirely sure that Notre Dame's going to finish undefeated. They still play Army and visit USC. Dave, I kind of find both of those games to be entirely losable. I don't know about you, but
boy, it seems like Lincoln Riley's crew's off the rails, though. But you do have to go across the country, and we've talked about travel as it pertains to just the Big Ten or the ACC. But it's a big travel game. I just don't know that Southern California has much to play for anymore. That's my concern there. Now, Army could beat them because I really believe out of all the teams that you mentioned that, I mean, what is Notre Dame's one big win?
Notre Dame's one big win is right now, funny enough, at Texas A&M. That's the one that's looking better than anything else. And should Texas A&M beat Texas, Notre Dame will have a strong case. But if they lose to Army, then they could be in real big trouble at that point. But I think really what Tennessee should focus on is where it comes down to Florida and Ole Miss, if that's fair. And excuse me, not Florida and Ole Miss. Excuse me, Ole Miss, Georgia, Alabama, and who's the other one I named? Ole Miss, Georgia, and Alabama. They got to get ahead of one of those. On paper, it's very clear as day Ole Miss. By every metric, Tennessee has a tougher schedule strength than Ole Miss. I mean, every single metric you look at, they have a tougher schedule strength than Ole Miss. Yes, Ole Miss beat Georgia, but Tennessee beat Alabama. On top of that, Tennessee's loss at Arkansas. Yeah, that's not a good loss, but Ole Miss's losses to Kentucky, that's a bad one at home. That's a much worse loss, Kentucky at home, than Arkansas.
It's a very one-sided game as well. For those that didn't watch it, that might have been the flop of the year, considering the difference in the two programs. I mean, Ole Miss just didn't show up to play that day. They got out physicaled, out pushed around. To me, if you're judging it on pure grunt grit, like Southern California, they have more talent than 5-5, which they are. So they just haven't shown up this year. There hasn't been chemistry or there's been some issue. Tennessee, I believe, has shown up. There have just been deficiencies in their play. So that to me is two totally separate things. On that day, Ole Miss didn't show up to play. I would argue that Tennessee has shown up to play. They've had deficiencies at offensive tackle, quarterback development, wide receiver, just like any other team. But if you judge that as far as the gumption, then that should factor in there because, like I said, Ole Miss against the Wildcats did not show up, got pushed around in that game. Go watch the clips if you don't believe me. That is the ugliest loss, perhaps, of all the SEC contenders, Caleb.
It is. That's why I said resume-wise, Ole Miss has the worst resume. They have the ugliest loss. Their schedule strength is worse than any of them. You can't go by head-to-head, obviously, because there's so many. Everybody's beating everybody. And on top of that, their other loss, Dave, LSU, that ain't looking like that good of a loss anymore after LSU just lost to Florida. So Ole Miss really has nothing to celebrate at this point. Now, here's where things could work against Tennessee. And I can't honestly say I would have a problem with the committee if they did this. And Tennessee fans can't complain because you shouldn't have lost to Arkansas on the road. It's just that simple. You should not have lost that game. That's a very bad team.
Agreed.
Ole Miss is peaking at the right time. I think we all agree with that. That same Arkansas team Tennessee lost to, Ole Miss scored 63 points on. Ole Miss didn't just beat Georgia last week, Dave. They manhandled Georgia. Georgia didn't look like they belonged on the same field as Ole Miss, honestly. If you're the college football playoff and you're the selection committee, and it comes down to very close resumes to a bunch of schools, y'all can hate me on this. Y'all can say it should be your overall body of work. I'm sorry. I think you should pick. I think your tiebreakers should be who's playing better right now. And who in their right mind thinks Tennessee's playing better right now than Ole Miss?
So like
They're
the
not.
last 10 games rule in the NCAA basketball tournament.
Yes, exactly.
Essentially your last month rule.
Right. Would you not take a team that looked good in February over a team that looked good in November if they had the same resume?
Not to the point where one team would have an extra loss or it be significantly different. But if that's my deciding factor, I have no problem using that.
Yes, and I think that's where Tennessee could hurt against Ole Miss. Alabama and Georgia are in. They belong in over Tennessee and Ole Miss. I'm sorry, guys, but Alabama and Georgia's schedule strengths are way higher than Tennessee's and Ole Miss. There's a gigantic gap in the schedule strengths. So it's down to Tennessee and Ole Miss.
Let me ask you this, and it's now our poll question. It is up right now, so you can jump on that if you want to. Is the season a failure if Vols don't make the college football playoff? Today's tough question, and the show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com. Well, it's because they're Tennessee's trial attorney. You can play to win with Banks & Jones because they'll go to trial. You've heard of other lawyers. They say they'll go to trial and fight for you. They won't. They just want to settle. That's the easiest way out. Well, that's not Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. They won't settle. They'll go to trial for you. Tennessee's trial attorney. They play to win. Truly, Tennessee's trial attorney when it comes to criminal defense or personal injury. Why settle? It's Banks & Jones. T. Scott Jones. banksandjones.com. Is this season a failure, Caleb, if Tennessee doesn't make the college football playoff? That's our poll question right now. I'll tabulate it here in a second. Is it a failure?
Yes, it's a failure. That was their goal at the beginning of the year, make the college football playoff, and then a 12-team playoff at the generational quarterback that I hyped up. It's an absolute failure.
I can't argue with that, especially because, Caleb, one of the things that you brought up, that no offense, but we disagreed on at the time, and I think I've been right, is that you said that a college football playoff would destroy the regular season. I actually think it's made it more engaging and entertaining. We could argue that for another day. But one of the things that you didn't say that the college football playoff has done, I don't know that anybody's excited for a bowl game, to go to the whatever bowl it might be, the Belt Bowl or anything like that. That to me has just absolutely no resonance in terms of success whatsoever. That sounds like a long month of trying to get guys together to play hard for that game, when in reality, even the coaching staff is probably thinking about the next year. That's what they did when they said, Joe Milton, you can go on to the NFL and going to focus on Nico. You're going to have players transfer out because the opt out of a bowl game. Caleb, I can't. I tried this morning to make an argument where a bowl game is somewhat exciting if Tennessee doesn't make the college football playoff. And brother, I just don't got it.
No, because there is no. I mean, who would be excited about it? All you watch the bowl game for, and I was this way last year. I've been this way for the past few years. You watch the bowl game simply to see simply to see what your team's going to look like next year. So yeah, it's a failure if you don't make the college football playoff. It's a good barometer, by the way, to judge coaches to put them under more scrutiny going forward too.
Well, like Tennessee there was excitement for the bowl game last year. Why? Because Nico, right?
Yes, exactly.
There was excitement for the bowl game 2 years ago. Why? No, Tennessee didn't make the college football playoff, but it was the Orange Bowl. The Orange Bowl still carries some weight, right? Mm-hmm. But now it's a part of the college football playoff, and I just can't see Tennessee's fans getting jazzed up and gobbling up a bunch of tickets for some other bowl, the Belt Bowl. Now, that's not just Tennessee, and that's not a knock on Tennessee, Caleb. That's across the board. If you're Ole Miss, you think Jackson Dart's going to play in that game, or is he going to opt out?
Oh, he's going to opt out.
If you're Georgia and you slip into a bowl game and not the college football playoff, you think Carson Beck's going to play or opt out? These bowl games, what you said about the regular season, if you want to change it up a little bit, is spot freaking on about bowl games. I don't know. I'm not even sure. Did you know that even the Fiesta Bowl, the national championship game, that Tennessee basically broke even because they took a bunch of people? You don't make any money on the bowl games. Are you aware of that? Basically, it's a break even.
Oh, I did not even know that. No, I thought you made money. Wow, that's incredible. That's wild.
So every year, and Tennessee's actually lost $50,000 like one year when they went to a major bowl. It might have been the Fiesta Bowl the next year. But anyway, that you don't make any money. You don't get better as a team. I guess it's a glorified scrimmage because you take a look at some players, and that was fine with a guy like Nico that you've got so much pinned on in the future. But Caleb, that's not fine to say that, hey, you need to be engaged and excited about playing the University of Wisconsin. I'm just pulling the team out of left field in the Belt Bowl.
No, I absolutely not. And it's going to happen to some team. So let me ask, let's
not as exciting as a stomach flu.
Let's look at Tennessee's potential path real quick to get here, because there's about 3 ways they could get in, Dave. Okay. And you tell me which one you think is most likely. Or a few ways. One, Ole Miss could lose. Ole Miss could just lose. I mean, I'm not writing off Florida against them this weekend. Are you?
No, I'm not. And I never thought I'd say this, but give Billy Napier credit. I mean, he's got those guys in position to make a bowl game, which isn't a big deal for most schools that we've talked about to this point, but it would be a significant deal for Florida after we thought the wheels were going to come completely off.
Yeah, and that's one way. Another way, Indiana gets absolutely obliterated by Ohio State. That game can't be close, by the way. Ohio State has to blow them out.
See, that's the one that scares me, Caleb, because I don't even think that a blowout and a one-loss Indiana team wouldn't get the nod, because I think the Big Ten and SEC are working together and they'll get an equal number of teams in. That's conspiracy theory, Dave, which I usually don't go down.
There's no way. What are your at some point the reasonableness of the eye test has to come in. Indiana has not beaten one team with a winning record all year. By the way, I'm gonna call out, and this isn't some Tennessee homerism, guys. Penn State and Indiana both need to be questioned a little bit. Dave, both of them, their best win is Michigan. That Michigan win is carrying way too much weight this year in college football for teams. Okay, I mean, they're not a good football team. And so,
brother, I'm with you, but I think the politics, and listen, if you give me eye test, you kind of respect my football eye, right?
Yep.
If you gave me eye test, they wouldn't necessarily be in the top 20. But I do believe there are going to be politics at play, that the Big Ten needs to get as many teams in as the SEC, and that scares me.
Yeah, but here's the thing with that. The politics is getting the names in, okay? And if Indiana, if you can put Tennessee in over Indiana, you're putting Tennessee in over Indiana. They're going to be the better draw. So
I'll give you
that's the other part of it. If Indiana gets blown out, they're out. They could get blown out. That's one path. Another path is, and this is a wild one, Dave, but bear with me on this. Texas A&M, do you think there's any chance they could lose to Auburn this weekend on the road? They're a little inconsistent. They're a first-year head coach. They got blown out by South Carolina.
Not really.
Okay, because I was going to say one path is Texas A&M loses to Auburn and then upsets Texas. I'll tell you guys this. If Texas gets 2 losses, they ain't going. They have a bad resume. The other level is this. What is the College Football Playoff Committee going to factor in conference championships game losses against teams? Because they inevitably, a 2-loss SEC team is going to play for the title and in all likelihood lose, and they'll walk away with 3 losses. Does that hurt them in relation to a Tennessee who's 10-2 and didn't go to the title game?
Can't help.
Yeah, exactly. It can't help. And then you have other issues. You know, look, again, I think the most clearest day path for Tennessee is Indiana getting blown out by Ohio State. And I mean blown out 50-0. If that happens, they're throwing Indiana out and they're saying, sorry, one loss to you is just not that good. And
okay. I was thinking blowout because I don't like Ohio State that much. I was thinking blowout along the lines of 30-10. What about that? Would that get them in? Tennessee in?
Given the fact that
Indiana out, I guess is a better way.
It would not be clear as day. Put it that way. At that point, you do lean to, you're going to start leaning a little bit to the brand name. So I think it's going to get Tennessee in at that point. Look, I think the brand name is going to help Tennessee versus Ole Miss. Let's be honest, Dave. If you talk that is your prediction, and it might come true. You said at the beginning of the year, if they really had to pick between a Tennessee and an Ole Miss, they might lean Tennessee because of the brand name. You said that from the start with politicking. We might see that the first year with the committee in the playoff. And
I think you almost assuredly will. I don't know that it'll benefit Tennessee. My fear is that it benefits in Alabama.
Well, Alabama belongs in. They belong in.
But Tennessee beat Alabama.
Okay. But
I know. I know.
But everybody beat everybody.
I know.
Look at the schedules. Tennessee has beaten one team with that's bowl eligible this year. One.
No.
Alabama.
Hemp House, the premier hemp dispensary online with a wide variety, great selection, and strict standards. Hemp House Chat with 2Ts.com. Hemp House Chat with 2Ts.com. Use the promo code HOOK for 10% off. HOOK for 10% off. The officiating, what happened in that game? What the H? And it's brought to you by Medicare Misty.
What the? What was he thinking?
Release the hounds.
The Dave Hooker Show.
Keep cool.
A presentation of OffTheHookSports.com.
By the way, on our poll question, is the season a failure if Vols don't make the college football playoff? 55% say yes. 45% say no. Use one word to describe the officiating on Saturday in the Tennessee-Georgia game, Caleb, because I don't usually go there, and I probably have only gone there once or twice in 25 years. But it was bad, did affect the game, and felt like it was one-sided as well. So the officiating, use one word to describe it.
Suspicious.
Okay.
Why? The head SEC official in this game was David Smith, a former Alabama quarterback. We have tracked a few games, Dave, recently, and I don't know if you know, but can I just give you the notable road losses for Tennessee with David Smith as a referee?
Yes.
Georgia, Missouri last year, South Carolina the year before, Auburn in 2020, Georgia in 2020, Kentucky in 2017, Texas A&M in 2016, and Florida in 2015. All three of those ones that I just named all had some questionable calls at certain points in the game. I don't think it's because he was an Alabama fan, guys. I just think that's laughable. I'm going to put that out there now. That part looks suspicious, but I just wanted to drop it in for fun. The real truth of the matter is this. I don't know I'm not going to say it comes from the top, but I think there is a moment of when it's murky, lean in favor of what best helps the conference. And the truth is what best helps the conference is having as many 10-2 teams as possible. And I'm just going to give you a quick example, Dave. I'm not sure it comes from the top, but there was a stat years ago on just the disproportionate number of calls that benefit teams trailing in NFL games. Did you ever see that?
No, I haven't seen that stat.
Yeah, it's I need to pull it up. I can't cite it right now, but basically teams down by 2 scores in the NFL get a disproportionate amount of penalties go their way. And it's very obvious when you're watching that officials are basically making the decision, if it's close, let's lean towards the team down by 2 scores to try to make this a game. And I am
saying... Do you think they lean towards Georgia because Tennessee was up 10-0? Is that what you're suggesting?
In this situation, I think they lean towards Georgia because Georgia had 2 losses and Tennessee had 1. And the more 2-loss teams, the better for the SEC, trying to jockey as many teams in the playoff as possible.
Okay, that's where you and I disagree. But let's take a look at Dave Hooker for a second. I'm objective to a fault. Am I not? I mean, I don't get up and down when Tennessee loses or wins because I believe, even though that's the team we primarily cover, you want me to show up and use my mind and not my heart. If I just start saying, fire Josh Heupel, the officials are cheating, that's not what you want to hear, I believe. For the most part, there are other people that make a living doing that, and that's good for them. But I don't believe that's what people come here for. So like I mentioned on Saturday night, I've been an official before. By the way, the poll question is this. Pick one word to describe the officiating against the Vols. Poor, suspicious, orchestrated. Poor, 63% of the vote. 35% of the vote. Suspicious, orchestrated, 5% of the vote, which is what you are hinting at, that it was in some ways orchestrated. I have been an official. I've in a lot of different capacities. I will tell you that you can get caught up in the moment. If that game in that first quarter happens in Neyland Stadium, Tennessee runs away with that game. And when I say run away, I mean they win by 2 scores. I think that they had a good game plan. I got a lot of respect for the guys that won one-on-one matchups from Georgia, and they did both on both sides of the offensive line. I've got a lot of respect for Kirby Smart and the coaching staff and his coaching staff and the changes they made at halftime, where I thought Josh Heupel was willing to stand pat. But I do believe you can get caught up in the moment. I think that an official can get caught up in the moment on the road, at home in Georgia's case, and things can go against you, especially when it comes out and it looked like that thing was going to be one-sided. That thing for a second felt like, what was it, Alabama 94, Caleb? I mean, it felt like Tennessee was going to take control for a second. I mean, it really did. I thought they had just a fantastic offensive script to come out, and I think the officials got caught up in the moment. So I'll say poor. Suspicious would hint that maybe that they wanted to have an extra team in the college football playoff, which is kind of what Caleb is hinting at. Orchestrated is that they all out and sat amongst themselves in the official room and said, here's what we're going to do. We're going to make sure that the SEC has another team in the college football playoff. I can't go that far. I just can't.
Can I pull up two videos for you, and can I compare them to you side by side? Well, not side by side. We'll play them each separately.
Love it. But if you're able to play them side by side, then you've got this new software down pat.
Yeah, I don't have this software down pat yet, guys. All right, so I'm going to play the Jackson Boy substitution penalty for you guys real quick. I'm going to turn the sound off. We're just going to narrate it because just for some YouTube copyright issues, we have to do that now. So I'm going to first show you guys the Jackson Boy substitution penalty. Okay. Oops. Wrong one. Sorry. Let me, that's what we're going to come to in a second. Excuse me, guys. I'm already screwing this up. I apologize.
All right. We got a new software. They upgraded. Always when you get something down pat, they upgrade. All right. Let's watch this. I'm going to go ahead and tell you, I think this is just flat out laziness by Jackson Boy. Or lack of focus. I got more of a problem with Moy here than I do the penalty being called. But I've never seen, all that being said, I've never seen the officials stop the game for a review to see if the guy was off the field. But go ahead and play it.
Yeah. Okay. So as you guys can see, Jackson Boy is leaving the field in a substitution. Now watch him leave. Number 51. He is slowly jogging off the field. But look at, I want to rewind this real quick. The ref who spotted the ball
doesn't get
Caesar's
players.
I have to point this out. The ref spotted the ball. Georgia sub, Tennessee has a right to sub. The ref is supposed to stand over the ball. They say there's a 3-second rule. They didn't even stand over the ball for 3 seconds, Dave. Look at him. He runs off.
Okay,
watch this.
Can you go from the very beginning if you don't mind? Is this the very beginning?
Okay. We're going to go right here. Okay. So the ref.
So let's see if there's a 3. Well, no, there's not a 3 Mississippi count. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi. I don't have a problem with the officiating right there. I think he's over the ball for 3 seconds.
But okay, so there's Jackson Boy running off the field. Let me show you guys this, because what happened was he said you're right. He said there was a 3-second rule and he walked away. He walked away and he said Jackson Boy didn't make the 3-second rule. I always thought it was a 5-second rule. Let me pull up this exact same officiating crew, Dave. This exact same one. This is what they did with Ole Miss in Oklahoma just a month ago. Ole Miss substitutes. Look at how long the ref stands over the ball as Oklahoma just takes their sweet time leaving the field. Check this out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Runs the play clock down to 1, and Lane Kiffin is forced to use a timeout.
Okay, in all fairness, though, Ole Miss didn't break the huddle nearly as quickly.
They were Ole Miss was the official was standing over the line. Jackson Dart was ready to snap it.
No, go back. They're still in a muddle huddle.
Let's take a look at this again. All right, hold on.
We're going to ask Jacob Warren here in a second to rip the officials. I'm sure he'll be comfortable with that. No, we're not going to do that. Here we go.
Look, the center's already snapped the ball. The refs are waiting. They're waiting on the refs to clear out before they actually get to the line of scrimmage.
Okay.
And then they have to call the timeout. By the way, there was also, we missed this, Dave, but there was also a kickoff that went out of bounds that the refs didn't call that went out of bounds in the game that we didn't talk about on Saturday. On top of the the Ricky Gibson face mask, where there was no face mask. Again, I don't think there was a smoke-filled room of let's go call everything against Tennessee. I don't think they do that. I do think when things are close, they will lean a certain way, though, if there's plausible deniability.
Okay. What the H brought to you by Medicare Misty. What the H are you dealing with your open enrollment for when Medicare Misty can take care of all of your Medicare needs and at no charge from her to you? That's pretty awesome. She's licensed in over 40 states. So no matter where you're watching this, she can help you out. MedicareMisty.com. Coming up, Jacob Warren will join us off the Hook Sports. Please click that thumbs up and like button. I'm going to give you my last thought on the officiating in 30 seconds.
19 years this year. I've been in the community since 1993. You're getting a lot of information. Unlike when you were working, they made the choice for you. Now you have to make the choice. Come to us and let us help you make it easy. Call Medicare Misty, MedicareMisty.com or 423-777-5577. Let us help them sleep at night.
And we call her Medicare Misty.
I want to ask Jacob Warren about this here in a second. Biggest problem or bigger problem, officiating or Vols' response to it, Caleb?
Oh, I still maintain. You mean on the field, right? Not how fans and people are responding.
Yes.
I think how Vols' response to it. I still think at the end of the day, there were so many issues in that game. The edge rushers didn't show up to play. The offense lacks creativity. There are plenty of other things to point out, but those are some calls. I've never seen a 3-second call made before, and you can't miss that Ricky Gibson play where you can't assume because the helmet comes off it's just a face mask. That's one of the laziest things to do.
I'll tell you something weird. I think it was Laura Rutledge. Did you notice how she was Johnny on the spot talking about the 3-second call that she had talked to the officials before to get an explanation of that rule? Why did she ask to get an explanation of that rule before the game?
That's a good question. Maybe I have no idea.
What would prompt you to do that?
Well, because Tennessee would because of all the substitutions that already happened when you're running no huddle and things like that with what Tennessee runs. Dave, you're an official. I guess before I know we got to move on, but I got to ask this last question too. Part of this is I want to know if this is the truth. Do you think the reason sometimes calls are missed or made is there I don't want to say confirmation bias, but as an official, you're based on teams' tendencies. You're already looking for certain penalties to see if they're going to happen when a ball snapped, right? Like you're not going to catch things that you didn't expect to catch a lot of times. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Like if you know a team commits a lot of contact on passing plays, you're going to be looking for pass interference, aren't you?
Yes.
See if it happens.
Absolutely. Quick 2-minute break, and then we get to Jacob Warren, the Warren Report. Jacob, I see you there. I'm sorry that I'm running late. Stay tuned. The show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com.
I've been in business actually 19 years this year. I've been in the community since 1993. You're getting a lot of information. Unlike when you were working, they made the choice for you. Now you have to make the choice. Come to us and let us help you make it easy. Call Medicare Misty, MedicareMisty.com or 423-777-5577. Let us help them sleep at night.
And we call her Medicare Misty.
Now in its 45th year, the second and third generations continue Joe Neubert's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we still try to live up to that.
Joe Neubert Collision Center.
Why Banks & Jones? Well, it's because they're Tennessee's trial attorney. You can play to win with Banks & Jones because they'll go to trial. You've heard of other lawyers. They say they'll go to trial and fight for you. They won't. They just want to settle. That's the easiest way out. Well, that's not Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. They won't settle. They'll go to trial for you. Tennessee's trial attorney. They play to win. Truly, Tennessee's trial attorney when it comes to criminal defense or personal injury. Why settle? It's Banks & Jones. T. Scott Jones. banksandjones.com. Dave Hooker here for Dynasty Pools and Spas, your home for the best spas and everything you need to jump right in. Relaxing, therapeutic, absolutely. But what sets Dynasty Pools and Spas apart from others is that you get everything with any spa purchase. You get the cover lift, the steps, delivery, and chemicals. When Dynasty Pools and Spas delivers your spa from their Athens location within 125 miles, you'll get your own personal hydrotherapy spa. Mention me, Dave Hooker, or Off the Hook Sports, and get $500 off your top quality new spa. Dynasty Pools and Spas, just off the Athens exit. Drop in and receive a free gift from Off the Hook Sports, Dynasty Pools and Spas. Mention Off the Hook Sports for a drop-in prize and that $500 discount, Dynasty Pools and Spas. To check out some of the Dynasty Spa models and to buy spa chemicals, go to dynastypoolsandspas.com. Dynasty Pools and Spas.
The Dave Hooker Show, represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorneys. Play to win, banksjones.com.
You're listening to The Dave Hooker Show, a presentation of offthehooksports.com.
The internet is full of pictures of each and every one of you.
Available on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the Off the Hook Sports app. Download now for free.
Is there nothing you people can't do?
Also available on offthehooksports.com.
All right, welcome back into the program. Easy for me to say. Let's go ahead and jump right into it. Jacob Warren joins us. The Warren Report brought to you by Peak IV Hydration. Jacob, how are you, sir?
What's up? I'm fantastic. How are y'all?
I'm well. How difficult is it to bounce back when an officiating call that is sometimes out of your, especially one that you know that's wrong, and officials make mistakes, but how difficult is it to bounce back when something that's out of your hands goes wrong during a game?
Yeah, I think obviously, like there's so many things that as a player on one side of it, right? You are like, when the world, like, everything is going against us, everything, like, they, they're for them, they're not, they're, rooting for them, pulling for them, cheating, whatever. And you're kind of blinded by this, I don't know, just this, where you're at, right? It's your situation and it's happening to you, right? So you're obviously very upset. But, honestly, I think most times it's not quite warranted. But this time, I mean, you see all the clips, and I know you guys just got done talking about it, but I mean, it takes two hands to count the number of different, like, big crucial penalties that they either called or didn't call or whatever it might be that, could or could not have an impact on the game. And I was just talking about this yesterday. Like, I really do hate the when stuff like this happens and then everyone just blames a loss on this. You know what I mean? I don't think that that's necessarily the right way to go about it. I do think we got outplayed the second half. You know what I mean? I think we put ourselves in a position to win the game, and then things happen, and if you're never in that position in the first place, then that call shouldn't matter, right? So I think that that's kind of how I try to think about it, and that is for sure my PR response. But I will say, like, it's frustrating for sure to sit there and watch it. I know on my end too, so I'm not happy about it, but again, we woke up the next day and we're still living, talking about it now, so.
Yeah, I think it's kind of analogous with what I do is when we have tech issues that are kind of outside my grasp, and we've had it happen.
We just laugh it off and we say, "Oh wow, Medicare misses on again."
Sometimes I hit the mute button. I don't laugh, but I say some big words that I shouldn't say. Definitely on the YouTube. But yeah, it to me is a frustrating thing. Obviously, however, I want to see if you would agree with this. Tennessee ultimately can't blame the officials in this game. I think they fell short for whatever reason. We'll kind of dive into that.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that's a silver lining, I guess, not necessarily a good silver lining, but that is what you have to look at. You have to look at those things. And I'm sure the guys got back, are looking at, okay, what exactly, why did it lead to this? Why did it even come down to that, right? It's like you're pulling up late for work, right? And you get stopped at a red light. The red light is not the reason you were late to work. You know what I'm saying? If you were 5 minutes earlier, you wouldn't even got stopped by that stupid red light. So, like, don't blame a red light for being late to work. Don't blame getting pulled over for being late to work. Like, it's your fault you're speeding. It's your fault you got stopped at the light. You should have left 10 minutes earlier. So that's literally, like, that's just the only way that I'm able to think about it. Because if I think about it any other way, it's just going to piss me off. So, quite frankly,
that's good stuff. Let's dig into this Tennessee offense, because I wrote over the weekend, and I know you're close to Joey Halsley. He's one of your coaches, but you're also close with Alex Golish. And I'm not trying to suggest that Golish, who is now, I believe, 5-5 at South Florida in year number 2, and he's not like he's lighting it up. I'm not trying to say that he's the brains behind the operation, but my contention in my column was that there were a lot of good brains in the operation. There was Heupel, Golish, Halsley, and now they're one short. And I just wonder if the sum of those guys were greater than their individual parts. Does that make sense?
It does. I mean, I think any team is that way. You know what I'm saying? Especially any good coaching staff. You know, I'm sure there's coaching staffs around the nation that there's one guy calling the shots and everything else just falls into place. But, you know, truly, like, obviously Hype is the leader, but he relies so much on Halsley, on, you know, guys like Glenn Ellerby, offensive line coach, and guys like, you know, Alec Ablin, tight ends coach, and even relies a lot on the players and stuff. A lot of people that have had a lot of experience, and relies on everybody to kind of formulate a plan and formulate kind of what we're going to choose as the identity of the team. And sure, you can compare all you want. You know, I mean, you can look at numbers, and that's the whole point of the game, is to be better than you were last year, right? So I think as you're just being critical, you continue to look at it and say, okay, what is it? What is it? What is it? But, you know, I don't think necessarily finger pointing is the right thing to do. I don't think that that's necessarily, you know, what's called for. I think everybody just kind of needs to settle in and deal with what you got. You know, I mean, you have what you have, and you have good players, you have good scheme that's proven to work. Like, let's just, you know, I guess it's a matter of looking, you know, inward rather than looking outward, rather than looking at reps, rather than looking at, you know, the environment. Look inward and just say, look, man, are we not calling it right? Are we not executing it right? And I'm sure they all know exactly what it is within the program. They know if they didn't execute something right. They know if, you know, whatever. But of course, guys like Hype, guys like Halsley, guys like, you know, Coach Ellaby are going to take a lot of that flag, right? And that's just what it is. They are the face of the team. They are the people that are behind pulling strings, and they're the ones responsible for whether the team wins or loses. And now you could also say, so are the players. You know what I'm saying? The players are the only ones that actually touch the football and touch the grass. So why, you know what I'm saying? You can always point fingers. You can always say it's this, it's this, it's that. But, you know, nobody within a building like that cares about who the fingers are pointed at, right? I think everybody just needs to do a good job of supporting each other. And I know they will. And kind of whatever shakes out from it, shakes out from it. You know, now you have 2 losses, and you could really still end the season with a very, very, very good record. And you know, obviously playoff contention is what it is, and everybody sees the numbers, everybody sees the percentages of, you know, will we make it, will we not? But I promise you that team will still be playing in one of the best bowl games that there is outside of the playoff if they don't make it, if they somehow find a way to not let us in. But that's a conversation for, I guess, a couple of weeks from now.
Yeah. Peak IV hydration is the conversation that you need to be having with yourself when it comes to energy or when it comes to hydration. They're in South Knoxville and Sevierville. PeakIVhydration.com. If we can drop that in the chat. But they also have the patches you can order online that are absolutely unbelievable. I've used them. I know that, Jacob, you're a big fan, and we appreciate Peak IV Hydration bringing you the Warren Report.
Yeah, I always encourage you guys to go just read up, man, educate yourself, understand what it means to take care of your body, to take care of things like hydration, just because, you know, I'm no scientist, but I do understand that it does control a lot of the different processes in your body and just the things that make you feel good, the things that give you a little bit of clarity in your brain, and the things that allow you to work hard and to work out hard and to do all the things that you got to do. So go click the link, man, give them a chance, read about it. If it's something that fits you, maybe give it a try.
All right, Caleb, jump in there, buddy.
So Jacob, I want to ask, I don't want to say it's a personnel issue, but this dates back to you guys last year.
Mm-hmm.
You know, since that 2022 win over Alabama, Tennessee, just as a football program, is 9-8 in the SEC since that 2022 win over Alabama.
Okay.
There have been some drop-offs. Because I don't think it's a personnel issue. How much do you think this scheme that was so ahead of the curve in 22 that was putting up points, I don't want to say has been figured out, but people have figured out how to slow it down to not get torched by it the way they did?
So this is the question of the century. Okay. This is something that we've all been thinking about for forever was, okay, like that was sick, right? We scored 48 points a game. Like, literally no one could stop it. No one could figure it out. But honestly, I'll tell you the truth. I think the problem is that this family of offense, right? And without being long-winded, college football, there's families of coaches, right? So there's the Saban family, Kirby Smart, guys like Jimmy Pruitt, guys like a lot of these guys that just truly trust hard-nosed defense. They come in with the saying like, hey, look, this is how it's going to be. They're a very disciplined unit. You know exactly what you're getting with a Saban defense. And Saban defense doesn't have to be at Alabama. It is all over the place because Saban has had so many people that he's taught, so many people that have learned under him, that have coached for him, that now go off other places and implement these things. Same exact thing we're talking about with Alex Golesh, how he's at USF. He's now running essentially the same offense that the Tennessee Volunteers are running, right? So you see guys like Alex Golesh out of USF have a lot of success against teams like Alabama. And it's like, how is a USF scoring 30-something points against Alabama? And like he did the same thing at Tennessee whenever we played them in 2022. Like you see what I'm saying? So like this family of offense has expanded so much, and Levy's running in at Mississippi State. They're running at Ole Miss. It's happening a lot of different places. So people are seeing it more. People are saying our team run it more. And I think it's just, getting to the point where people are starting to kind of understand what it is and understand how to break it down. And that's on the coaches. That's on the players to be able to adapt and to be able to continue to push that needle and continue to stay ahead of the curve, as you're saying, and continue to have success with the style of offense.
Jacob, how does the game planning come together? Does Josh Heupel, like, is he the architect that he says, this is how the house is going to be? It's going to be 5,000 square feet. It's going to be an open floor plan. It's going to be this, that, blah, blah, blah. And then the other coaches come in and they do the trim work and they decide, like the wife work, basically. They decide what colors and stuff you're going to use.
Sure. Or
is it, hey, let's all sit down and devise a game plan together? I mean, how does that process work?
Yeah, I think, from what I could tell, it was a lot of cooperation, a lot of different pieces coming in. Obviously, you have to have a guy, any team or any program has to have a guy in the front or a woman in the front, right? That is leading the charge, that is saying, follow me. I am the one that will take all of this responsibility on my back. People are going to look at me. People are going to talk crazy about me. People are going to point fingers at me. I'll take all that, right? I just need your help. I need your support in order to accomplish this job, right? And I think that Hype does a great job of delegating responsibility, of allowing other people to give input. And, I think that that's a very humble thing. It takes a lot of humility to be able to do that. But I think he knows that is what's best for the team, is to have, 20 different minds in a room thinking about a play rather than just him saying, hey, this is it, and I'm going to tell you exactly what we're going to do. Like, I don't think that's never been his style, and I think that is how he approaches, at least a game planned week, if you will, when you're looking for new things or whatever.
So at the end of the day, it would be accurate to say 100% this is Josh Heupel's offense. It didn't go to South Florida with Alex Golesh.
This is like, it starts with him, if that makes sense. And it's gone everywhere else. And it didn't necessarily, there's a lot of people that it starts with, but he is, I guess, one of the grandfathers of this type of style for sure.
Right. And Caleb, I want you to jump in here because to go back, for instance, way back, like before you were born, David Cutcliffe at one point, who I'm sure offensive coordinator, when he went to Ole Miss, I do think to some extent the offense went with him and Tennessee started kind of a downhill trend. So you don't think that's the case in any shape, form, or fashion?
I mean, no, I guess it could be. Obviously, history repeats itself, and you could probably draw some similarities to the both. But yeah, who knows? I guess only time will tell. But yeah, shout out Cut. My dad plays for Cut. I know Cut. He recruited me to Duke. I see him, every once in a while around Tennessee and just wherever, and great dude. I know it's not what we're talking about, but shout out Cut.
No, he is. Caleb got me to text him over whether or not Peyton Manning had what did you, flat feet, like medically diagnosed flat feet. So I texted Cut because I lost a bet And he's like, I have no idea what you're talking about. I'm like, sorry.
I was informed by other sources that the jabbing that Peyton Manning did, Jacob, and I know you're young, but I'm sure you remember watching Peyton, at least some clips of Peyton at his prime, and I'm sure you noticed he jabbed his feet a lot when he was. I was told that that's because he was flat-footed, so he moved very slow, and that was a way to keep him on his toes and to be able to move in the pocket. So apparently, the flat-footed thing just meant slow.
I was like, or he's just slow. Yeah.
David texted me back. He said he was a surprisingly good athlete, which is basically a way of saying he's not a great athlete.
Yeah, it's a backhanded compliment there.
So Jacob, it's funny we're talking about this.
Hey, listen, sorry, that's been said about me before. So I think that
Jacob Warren is a surprisingly good athlete.
He almost kind of shocks you with his speed. It's like, bro, what are you talking about?
Jacob, to give Hypo a little bit of credit here, because we said for a while that, I'm sure you've heard, we all said Josh Heupel's this generation Steve Spurrier. Many of us are questioning that right now because the offense just hasn't been as explosive. But we also forgot to look back on the fact that once SEC defenses adjusted to Steve Spurrier, he was a lot more conservative later in his career.
Mm-hmm.
Do you playing for Josh Heupel? We saw them work the tight ends in the game last week.
Mm-hmm.
How willing is he to, if y'all are going to make me work the short field and run the ball and play conservative football, I can do that and win too. How willing is he to do that?
And we'll go to the chat here. I think Colton has a good point. It says that it feels like Heupel has been willing to adapt. It's just not happening fast enough, especially with the young quarterback. Honestly, I think what you're saying is true. And Caleb, I agree with you too. I think it's, there is a lot of willingness to change and everything's trying to adapt, like you see Miles Kitselman get involved a lot more recently in the pass game, and Holden getting involved, Ethan getting involved, and they handed a fullback dive to Miles the other night, which was sick. And that's something that has always been, a possibility or always been in the playbook. You know what I'm saying? You're just seeing these things kind of popping up and showing up. And I think that, if you look at it critically, right, maybe it's just not changing fast enough. Who knows? But obviously they're making an effort to try to get some different things in. And it just is, for one reason or another, sometimes it might not come together. You might not score 35, 40. But no, I do think that they are trying, right? Obviously everybody's trying. It just looks like it, however it looks to you. I don't know. I'm kind of just rambling at this point, but
no, I don't think you're rambling at all. Let me ask you this: how much does the narrative change as an offense and an offensive approach and a day at the office, whether or not at Sanford Stadium or wherever, if you connect on a couple of those deep balls, just a couple, to change the way defenses play? And I want to dig into that and portions of the Warren Report brought to you by our friends at Triple F Training, where, Jacob, tell us about what you're doing and how people can get in touch with you and they can have elite work done on their kids and perhaps turn them into surprisingly good athletes like Jacob Warren.
Just like me, yeah. So yeah, man, a cool opportunity that I've come across. I started working with Triple F Elite Sports Training. Essentially, we're a gym. We a private gym. We train youth athletes. We also train adults, but mostly youth athletes. Man, just teaching them how to be a pro. It's led by a guy named Lee Smith, who is truly like a big brother to me. And if you've been around the Knoxville area for a while, you kind of a really long time. I mean, he's old. No, I'm just kidding. If you've been around Knoxville for a while, you've heard of Lee, you've heard of kind of his story. And he grew up in the area and played football at Marshall, played in the NFL for 11 years, and has come back in Knoxville to try to just make an impact on kids, man. Just teach them truly how to use their body, how to maximize their body to the fullest athletic potential. And we do a lot of really good work, man. And I'm actually started working over there in sales for him. So just making a lot of phone calls, meeting people, reaching out on things like this, and just trying to spread the word. So, man, if you would like to, go to triplef.com. Also, we can maybe get a phone number or an email or something in the chat, maybe next session, and get you guys connected. But would love to talk about it. If you have me on social media, you can reach out to me on social media. But for sure, an amazing opportunity that I want everybody to know about.
Lee has his PhD, Pal High diploma.
There we go.
Like me, an alum, but he went, I believe, to Central in middle school, so he didn't go through 3 years of PMS, Pal Middle School.
But he doesn't deserve the he don't get the PhD.
You don't want to go through 3 years of PMS. All right, so Jacob, back to this offense. All right, two-parter. How much does it change the narrative if Tennessee's able to hit on a couple of deep balls and the way defenses play? And then if you had to put your finger on, and we're not trying to be overly critical here, but if you had to put your finger on, it's more the receivers not making plays or Nico who hasn't developed that deep touch yet. Just break that down for me, the deep ball, how you see it.
Yeah, I see the deep ball, man. Everything don't have to be perfect, but the deep ball is truly one of the hardest shots to hit in the game. And that's my opinion. That's for me as a big tight end, that's sneaky athletic. It was always hard to track that ball. It was always hard to run that ball down. I wasn't amazing at it. I did okay here and there, but truly like have a lot of respect and just really, I think it's one of the coolest plays in football because the ball's traveling so long. It is a very hard catch to make, right? So it's a hard play to actually come across, but you see it all the time. This is literally everything that we work on. This is everything that they train for. I'm sure they throw deep balls every single day in practice. Like it's something that is just a part of this offense. And, you know, I think when you talk about what's missing, why is it something not working? I think when we have had a lot of success, we have thrown the ball like that. We have hit those deep shots, at least 2 or 3 of them in the game, or like 1 or 2 a half. And we've run the ball super, super efficient. And I think, you know, you ran the ball pretty well on Saturday, but like not quite as efficient as you would love. And then you don't hit the deep shots. And it's just, you sit there and you wonder, you just have this super bad feeling in your mouth. And it's like, well, if we just hit 2 of those, you know what I'm saying? That the game's different. Not even that they're touchdowns, but just like you said, it forces the defense to play the game a little bit differently. It forces them to maybe give you some more opportunities underneath and to run the ball a little bit easier. But, you know, you got a defensive line hand in the face of the quarterback, and he's just letting it rip to the outside edge of the numbers and hoping his guy's there. I'm not saying he's just throwing it willy-nilly, but, you know, he's letting it rip to a spot. And if that wide receiver's not on that spot because he got jammed or because he got pushed out a little bit or whatever, it just looks sloppy. It doesn't look great. But, you know, let me go like this to you, right? And make you throw a ball down the sidelines to a guy running 20 miles an hour. Like, that's how quickly things get knocked off timing and things get, you know, messed up. And I can sit here and make excuses for him all I want, but, you know, end of the day is those shots got to hit, and we have to have those in order to have a lot of success and to have the success that we all want and we all know we can have. So,
okay, so let me get back to part 2 of that. Is it more receivers or more quarterback?
See, Dave, that's not part 2. I included that. I just tried to dodge it. You just keep asking back.
Here are my thoughts. I think it's more Nico, but I don't mean it in a bad way. I think to have the deep ball touch takes experience. Yeah. And I think Hendon Hooker came into a second year as a full-time starter, even though he had to take over in 2021. I just think it's an experience thing. I think it's more so Nico, but I don't mean that it never gets better and never gets fixed.
And I think whenever you can address it like that, and I think that that's a completely fine way of saying it. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Like I said, I mean, it's just because he's young doesn't mean you can't, you know, put some things on him, right? Like he is the quarterback of this team, and he is the one that he knows he has to make those shots and make those throws. And I'm sure he's just as upset about not hitting them as anybody else is, you know what I mean? So, you know, just some accountability on that end for sure. I think that's a fair thing to say, Dave.
Did you ever in practice line up as a fullback and dive into the end zone?
No, I'm not a fullback, Dave.
Blame it.
I'm 6'6".
Well, I know, but Kisselman did it, and the first thing I did is I turned to my wife and I said, "Why the hell didn't they do that with Jake?"
Dude, I would look ridiculous back there in the 3-point stands. Getting a handoff. I haven't received a handoff since I was 7 years old. I played running back. My brother was the quarterback, and we ran all over. But that was a long time ago. I've grown about 3 feet since then.
All right. Jacob, great stuff, buddy. Again, brought to you by Peacock V Hydration. We'll talk to you next Monday, and maybe we can get together before then and break bread.
Awesome. Sounds great.
All right. Thank you, Jacob. I appreciate that. Jacob Warren, this day in Tennessee sports history coming up. Give us a little tease, Caleb, on this day in Tennessee sports history.
A record was set on this day in Tennessee football history.
Okay. I like that. Also, why you should be excited about Tennessee's basketball team via Caleb Calhoun. Why I still have some concerns. 2 minutes, the show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com. This day in Tennessee sports history, ball hoops up next. Hang tight. Please click that like button and comment what you think about Tennessee hoops, and we'll get to your comments in just 2 minutes off the Hook Sports.
Sports Treasures in North Knoxville is one of the South's largest sports cards and memorabilia dealers, featuring over 10 million sports cards from vintage to modern. Sports Treasures carries a full line of hobby boxes, singles, autographed memorabilia, Tennessee Vols collectibles, fan cave decorations, and so much more. See a museum full of collectibles at Sports Treasures, 4819 North Broadway in Fountain City, and Sports Treasures on Facebook. Sports Treasures, where the real sports fan goes to shop.
Community banking is about location and much more. It's about family. We reside in your community. We are a part of your community. At Commercial Bank, our commitment extends beyond the walls of our branches. It's displayed each day in the opportunities we provide, the money we give back, and the time we commit, all to help improve the lives of the people, families, and businesses that make our communities great. Commercial Bank, life made better.
Double D Piping provides full-service fire protection on any scale. From residential homes to government facilities, we can assist any customer through design, fabrication, installation, inspection, and demonstration of fire suppression systems. With 30 years of service across 5 states and a full staff with over 40 years experience, our quality can't be beaten. Don't get caught watching what you could have prevented. Call Double D Piping, the absolute best in fire prevention.
With our brand new location on Emory Road, Eye Care Optical is bringing East Tennessee's best eye care to your neighborhood. Doctors Johnston and Combs offer unmatched expertise and care without a trip to Knoxville. Eye Care Optical, now in Powell.
Are you ready to get strong? At NFC, we offer top-notch weight training and functional fitness, so you can build strength and improve your performance. Join today at NFC1.com or stop by any one of our 7 East Tennessee locations.
When the lights turn on and the game begins, you need a team you can rely on. Ray Varner Ford and Clinton's strong lineup of vehicles is crafted with the same dedication and hard work that drives our community. Step up your game in this 2024 F-150 4x4 Super Crew STX, $46,994. 24 Ford Expedition XLT, $59,978. 24 F-250 Crew Cab 4x4 STX, $57,888.
Local you trust, performance you can afford. Ray Varner Ford, built for the game.
What's up, everybody? This is Jacob Warren, asking you to like, subscribe, and share. Dave needs this.
The Dave Hooker Show, represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorneys. Play to win, banksjones.com.
Who's this guy?
Hello, wizard.
The Dave Hooker Show, a presentation of Off the Hook Sports, YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the free Off the Hook Sports app. Back to Dave Hooker.
All right, we got a broken record. Skip. Not like that. You probably never even owned a vinyl record, have you, Caleb?
No, I never did.
I was a cassette guy. I was in that generation. So the vinyl records that I had were more for nostalgia. I've thought about getting back into that because I've really turned into a music buff lately. And there's something about the vinyl that has the fullness to it that nothing else has. Everything seems so electronic now. But it's time for This Day in Tennessee Sports History. And that's brought to you in part by our friends at Town Dogs of Knoxville. Champions look good in orange. HDKnoxville.com. HDKnoxville.com. Caleb, what do you got, buddy?
All right. So on this day, 24 years ago today, Dave, Travis Henry broke James Stewart's record to become the all-time rushing leader in Tennessee football history. He remains the all-time leader in Tennessee football history, rushing leader in 2000. Tennessee beat Kentucky that day, 59-20. It was the last time they would face Hal Mummy.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And one of the great stories of this is this. In 97, Tennessee got a trio of running backs. We know them. Jamal Lewis was the headliner. Behind him was Travis Henry. Behind him was Travis Stevens. Jamal Lewis was the star. But Travis Henry's the one who set the all-time rushing record. And then the one behind both of them, Travis Stevens, was the one who set the all-time single season record once he got a year to himself.
What a great trio of tailbacks when you just look back. And he thought Travis Stevens was the add-on, but what he ended up doing in 2001 was so impressive. Go ahead.
I still have magazines from 2001, and you were covering Tennessee that year, Dave. The national perception. I want to ask you about the national perception of Travis Stevens since you were close to the team. And if you tell me if you knew this was wrong or if you believed it too. The national perception was that what would hold Tennessee back was they didn't have a running back who could carry the ball 25 to 30 times a game.
Yes, and I'll take that a step further. That was the perception of roughly half the media. You want an Uncle Dave story?
Sure.
Okay, this was way out of line, so I'm not going to name it. But at Travis Stevens, before the Florida game in 2001, what was the game before that? Do you remember?
It was Vanderbilt, because remember Tennessee played Florida the last game of the year.
Right. Okay, so you had a big game against Vanderbilt. And there was one reporter who continued to carry the narrative. And you should never carry a narrative. Like, I don't come in here and I haven't said that, my mind changes week to week, and it should. But this one reporter carried the narrative that Travis Stevens just couldn't play an elite level. And this was way out of line. But he saw Travis Stevens, and Travis Stevens goes, well, what'd you think about Saturday, talking about the Vanderbilt game? And the guy said, well, we'll see what you do against Florida. Well, he put up like 220 yards, if I remember correctly.
It was one of the greatest individual. If not for Al Wilson, 98, it'd be the greatest individual performance in Tennessee history against Florida.
Yes, and I'll take this a step further. This reporter was so frustrated by it that he actually pushed another reporter in the swamp as we were going to get interviews, like physically pushed him.
Oh, my gosh. That is crazy.
Yeah, and the other reporter was so nice about it that he didn't tell anybody about it, or the guy probably would have gotten fired.
So did you believe that in 2001 going into the year, or did you know did you know he could shoulder the load?
Oh, no. I definitely thought they would fall short. I definitely thought they were short at running back. But I changed my opinion over the course of the season because of the way they ran their offense. And they ran a lot of delayed draws and stuff that allowed him to pick his hole.
Yeah, and he was the best cut and run back.
Yeah, it was a put your foot and go. And usually the put your foot and go are big guys. So that was unusual for a little guy to have that much determination. And he probably had better vision than any of the other tailbacks you just mentioned.
Oh, he did. I mean, Henry, again, the reason Travis Henry has always been one of my favorite running backs to ever watch is because, similar to Dylan Sampson now, he runs hard. Travis Henry was never going to lose you a yard, which is why in 2000, we talk about the 99 toss to Jamal Lewis that cost Tennessee against Florida on 4th and 3. Mm-hmm. Well, in 2000 against Florida on 3rd and 1, Tennessee needs a first down and they can run out the clock before Florida does that 91-yard drive for the Jabbar Gaffney non-catch. Randy Sanders calls a toss to Travis Henry. I'm sorry, why are you not just going straight up the gut with Henry? He's not going to lose you. He's going to get you a yard. Isn't there a 100% chance if you need a yard, Travis Henry's getting it for you?
No, I agree. Now, let me ask you this. Would you take Dylan Sampson over that crew you mentioned, one or all of them? That's kind of the way I was, too. Why don't you think about it? This day in Tennessee sports history before he talks some hoops, brought to you in part by Double D Piping.
Double D Piping provides full-service fire protection on any scale. From residential homes to government facilities, we can assist any customer through design, fabrication, installation, inspection, and demonstration of fire suppression systems. With 30 years of service across 5 states and a full staff with over 40 years experience, our quality can't be beaten. Don't get caught watching what you could have prevented. Call Double D Piping, the absolute best in fire prevention.
All right, talent-wise, it's Jamal Lewis, Henry, Stevens. Correct?
Correct.
Would you argue with that?
I wouldn't argue.
Who I would take for a year. If you could reincarnate them, and Dylan Sampson said, I'm opting out early to go to the NFL. And the more I watch him, the more he's just like Emmitt Smith. Guys, I mean, he is just like Emmitt Smith in maximizing runs. I don't think they're incredible talents in either regard, which I'm a Cowboys fan, but they're the same guy. I would take Henry, Stevens, J-Lou. Because I know that
Jamal Lewis would run hard.
Yeah.
I'm with you. I would go right in that order. And Travis Henry, whatever his issues off the field, and we know they exist, Travis Henry, I don't know of a running back that loved contact more with Travis Henry. He liked hitting you like a linebacker when he was running the ball.
Yeah. Okay. Nicknamed Cheese because he was as hard as a block of government cheese. Yeah.
Which I did not know that. I did not know what government cheese was as a kid, so I didn't get that thing.
Yeah, which is like what you get from food stamps. My grandmother one time found some way to get government cheese, and it was so much cheaper that she got it. So I've eaten it a lot. It's not very good, but it is hard as a rock. Like if somebody breaks into your house, I could have picked up that block of government cheese. It's about this big, and I could have smacked them over the head with it and probably knocked them out of the house. It's not good, but yes, it can be a weapon. Tennessee's basketball team over the weekend. Caleb, what did you think? What are your thoughts on Tennessee's basketball team? Because I've got some pretty strong thoughts, and I'm not sure that we're going to be on the same page here. So give me what you got.
All right, so Tennessee's basketball team over the weekend beat Austin P 103-68. And Dave, believe it or not, I'm where you're at based on this win. I'm not where you're at on the narrative for the whole season because we just talked about, don't ride with the narrative. I'm not there for the whole season. But I'm not where people are at for Tennessee from yesterday's game. And let me tell you why. The excitement about Tennessee, and we've always had the debate, Dave, when Tennessee goes ice cold shooting from three, can they manufacture points? That's the question with the Rick Barnes offense, right?
Yes.
Well, they were 5 of 14 from three yesterday, and they still scored 103 points. Here's why I can't read it too much into that, Dave. Igor Milicic scored 23. Felix Opara added 12. Cade Phillips added 13 off the bench. What did they do? They just pounded it inside because Austin Peay's tallest player was 6'8". Mm-hmm. So I can't sit there and look at them scoring 103 points while not being red hot shooting from three and say, oh, well, they figured it out. They're going to be fine going forward because they're going to have more competition guarding them underneath the basket in the future, particularly in the NCAA tournament, than you're going to get with an Austin Peay whose center is 6'8". And now, that is a good sign, though, for them that those players are efficient under the basket and they can all play. Igor Milicic is very finesse. He's got a unique offensive game to him. Felix Opara is the scrapper. Cade Phillips proving he can provide valuable minutes off the bench with the 13 points. JP Estrella still being banged up is a great sign that Tennessee found other ways to score, or that Tennessee found other bigs. And Darlington Dubar still not in the offense. So I think long-term, you're still encouraged by this team. But you can't really be excited over 103 points because you pounded it inside in the paint against a low level mid-major team that does not have anybody tall that can compete.
Yeah, I don't think you can take much away from this game other than it's another opportunity to see Igor and Chaz. So the poll questions on our YouTube page is who are you most excited about? And I think I know the answer to this, what most people will say. Chaz, of course. Igor, still Darling Stone, really. I don't know how it can be Darling Stone, but I put him on there because those are the trio that came in. I think it's Igor. Now, I think more rides on Chaz Lanier's shoulders, but I have my doubts that Chaz Lanier can come anywhere close to Dalton Connect, who might just be the rookie of the year in the NBA, right?
Correct.
Okay.
You're absolutely right. He might.
So I don't think that Chaz Lanier can answer anywhere near like Dalton Connect can. So I'm most excited about Igor, his ability to step out and shoot the three. And with Darling Stone, the jury's still out. I don't want to jump on him because I've been told there's a personal issue that was not his fault. And I think that's still developing. But by the same token, I was told by this person, he wasn't lighting it up when he showed up on campus. And there is a defensive concern, and there was from the get-go before the personal issue crept up. I think it's Igor. I think Igor changes his team. Now, you're not going to look at Igor and say, look, he took over the game like Dalton Connect was able to do, and he's going to be as good of a player in the NBA as Dalton Connect is. But I've got questions about Chaz Lanier's release on the outside. I mentioned that. I think he pushes the ball. I don't know fundamentally if that can be fixed in 1 year, no matter how good the coach is. I think it's Igor. I think it's Igor that spreads the court, opens things up for things underneath. And without him, I think you would have to funnel everything to Chaz in clutch situations. And I just don't see, again, this is eye test because we've got to see him against better competition when you get to the SEC tournament or the SEC schedule. I don't see Chaz Lanier being anywhere close to Dalton Connect.
Okay, but what we talked about last week with Steve Hammer, he may not be anywhere close, but there's more options overall on this team.
Agreed. And one of those is Igor.
Yeah, and one of those is Igor. The 2015-16 Golden State Warriors, the Warriors teams that were winning championships, there was nobody on those teams that was close to LeBron James. Sorry, guys. Kevin Durant and Steph Curry are not close to LeBron talent-wise. I think even you agree with me on that, Dave. That's one of the dumbest narratives that's been come out of the last 20 years of the NBA, that either of those players is on LeBron's level. But when you have Steph and Kevin Durant and Draymond Green and Klay Thompson, then they're going to sweep a LeBron team where LeBron's the only guy that can score on that team.
You know, that's actually a really good comparison. Sometimes I feel like we go off into left field on some of our analogies, but that's a good one. Is this team more like the Warriors than it is any of the, well, with the exception of the super team in Miami, than any of the championship teams that LeBron has been able to put together? Probably. And Dalton Connect was the guy, like LeBron, when everything's going south or everything's average, that you got the ball to and you expected things to happen. This team does not have that. I don't believe this year, but I do believe that this team has more options at the end of the day.
And another comparable one, as we talked about it last week, but the 80s Bulls versus Celtics. I mean, you know this, Dave. You were a Celtics fan. Literally, it was Michael Jordan versus 7 guys, wasn't it, during that time?
Yes.
And, I mean, I know Larry Bird was the main guy, but it's not like the Celtics had a go-to guy. They just went to whoever had the hot hand during that time.
Yep.
And, you know, that was, whereas the Bulls just had to turn to Michael. So I think this team is not going to have your typical go-to score. They are going to go to whoever has the hot hand. You're right. It could be Igor, could be Chaz Lanier. I still maintain it could be Darlington Dubar. Look, Dave, Dalton Connect had defensive issues in the offseason going into last year that made him a major question mark. No one saw that coming when he took off in the season. Maybe Rick Barnes knew something we didn't know, but I don't feel like we all had heard that Dalton Connect was struggling on defense, didn't we, in the offseason?
Mm-hmm.
And then the game started and things changed. The biggest thing with defense in Rick Barnes' system is a willingness to embrace what he's doing. I think Darlington Dubar is eminently coachable. So I think he'll be okay. He's got to get back. He's got to develop. It'll probably be some growing pains in November and December. Here's where we just talked last segment about not changing narratives and not, or people who stick to their guns. I'm going to tell you up front, Dave, I'm going to stick to my guns about Darlington Dubar at least until January. I'm not going to freak out if he's struggling in November or December.
That's fair. No. I think that's very fair. And like I said, he's had a couple of issues to overcome. I think he can still be there. All right. Question on our poll question is now, who goes deeper into postseason play? Is it Vols Hoops? Is it Tennessee's football team? And we'll ask you that now. I'm going to say bank on it. It's Tennessee's football team, actually. Bank on it, brought to you by our good friends at Commercial Bank. Commercial Bank is unbelievable. Commercial Bank, member FDIC, life made better.
Commercial Bank is your neighborhood bank. What makes us different from other banks? We understand that every customer has unique opportunities, challenges, and financial concerns. We don't expect you to fit into the same box as the next person or business. Whether it's purchasing a home, saving for your child's future, or planning for your next vacation, we're with you every step of the way to navigate life's big decisions. Commercial Bank. Life made better.
All right. Why, Caleb, does one team, Tennessee Hoops or Tennessee's football team, go deeper into postseason play?
Okay, so I think personally Tennessee's basketball team goes deeper because we don't even know if Tennessee's football team is going to make the college football playoff at this moment. And by definition, if you don't make the playoff, you're not going deeper, because assuming an Elite Eight appearance is further than the college football playoff, which is the top 12.
Agreed.
So at this point, I mean, I have to say the basketball team, because I actually think the basketball team is built like an Elite Eight team once again. And so I'm pretty high on that fact. So I'm going to lean basketball.
I'm going to factor in a couple of different things. I think Tennessee does make the college football playoff, so that makes them a top 12 team, correct?
Correct.
And I haven't seen enough from this basketball team. And you always have to throw in Rick Barnes' tournament success or lack thereof, right?
Yes, but again,
fair or not, you have to. I would say this is a Sweet 16 team that I'm seeing right now.
So, as a history major myself, Josh Pate has a great saying, and this is why I love him on the show, because Josh Pate is where I am, and I'm one of the few history majors that believes this, because most history majors have a bad problem, Dave, of thinking because something has been, that means something will be. And you had, I don't know if you guys saw, you had this American University historian, Alan Lichtman, come out and be like, there's these keys to the White House, and they determine who wins every single presidential election ever. And someone asked him one time, like, so you're telling me if a guy, like, every single day he's on the campaign trail, punches a baby in the face, but the keys favor him, he's going to win the election? Like, no, obviously. And of course, for the first time ever, the keys favored Kamala Harris, and she lost to Donald Trump. So your keys were wrong, because you're creating correlations without causations, and historians do that all the time. I think we're creating a correlation without causation sometimes with Rick Barnes and his lack of tournament success. There's a good chance it just hasn't been there. And just to give you an example, Dave, Mark Few. People still to this day say Tony Bennett's a better tournament coach than Mark Few because Tony Bennett got one national title at Virginia. That's just a flat out lie. Mark Few is a better tournament coach than Tony Bennett. Tony Bennett had one run, but that doesn't make him a better tournament coach. And I think we create too many narratives, and I think we're seeing, I mean, Rick Barnes just went to the Elite Eight. So I can't go with the whole, I think this era of Rick Barnes is different from the era of Rick Barnes we saw at Texas. That's where I'm leaning on that.
Okay, but let me play devil's advocate. He went to the Elite Eight despite having the most electric, explosive player, and didn't get to the Final Four despite having the most electric, explosive player in college basketball last year. No offense against Zach Edey at Purdue, but listen, that guy was what he is. I mean, he was a stiff standing down low who was good on defense.
He had a mentally soft center who melted down against the competition of Zach Edey that he couldn't bank on happening until it happened. I mean, that's what happened. Jonas Adu wilted beneath the pressure.
Probably did. I don't have an argument with that. Stat of the day is right now brought to you by our friends at Quality Tire Pro. Quality Tire Pro serving Chattanooga's community since 1957. All major brands of tires, full service automotive, brakes, alignments, oil changes, and more. QualityTirePros.com. QualityTirePros.com. Caleb, what do you got for me? Stat of the day.
This is the third time in history that Tennessee beat Florida and Alabama, but lost to Georgia in the regular season. The other two times they went 10-2. They're projected this time to go 10-2. You want to guess the other two times they did it, Dave? You covered both teams.
Yeah, I know. Go ahead.
2003 and 2022. 2022, obviously, last 2 years ago. 2003 was an interesting one. That was the game where that was the Sean Jones fumble return play, which is the most momentum-shifting play I have ever seen in the history of football at a half.
It's pretty good. This at the end of the day, when you look back at those games, if Tennessee doesn't make the college football playoff, I don't think you're going to consider this a success. But let's say the inaugural 12-team college football playoff is next year, and you had those two wins on your resume, I think you would consider this a success if you didn't make a 14 playoff. Would you agree or disagree with that?
Not this year. Not this year. I had higher expectations for them this year. I got to be honest. And also because of the fact that they lost to Arkansas. Dave, you and I can forgive the South Carolina loss 2 years ago. We can say, you know what? This team had defensive issues, the Connor Stallions thing. At the end of the day,
Hooker gets hurt in the middle of the game.
Yeah, Hooker gets hurt. At the end of the game, they lost to Arkansas, a game they never should have lost. Very similar to, I just brought up the 2003 team. That's the team that beat Miami. The reason they didn't go play for the SEC title and potentially national title, they lost to a bad Auburn team that year at Auburn.
Work Truck's all about trucks. Trucks are actually available. Trucks that help you maximize your profits by having the right work vehicle available. Time is money. The perfect work vehicle doesn't break down, has all the space to carry what you need. That's what Work Trucks is intent on offering, while other dealerships just can't do it. Contract is about time. Work Truck saves you time with less back and forth trips and trucks that pass the highest standards to be put to work. Process is also quick and easy when choosing a vehicle for work trucks, cargo vans, utility body trucks with an iPod work bodies installed, pickup trucks of all sizes, and anything special like cranes or dump trucks, work truck supplies, vehicles to people just like you and get you back on the road. No dealership runaround. If you're a contractor, you need no work trucks. That's a fact. Service industry, work trucks. Work trucks carries the trucks that your business has to have. You need work trucks. Clinton Highway in Knoxville, downtown Birmingham for the entire inventory. Go right there. Work trucks with an X, LLC.com. Work trucks with an X. Why risk chancing your future in business on the wrong piece of equipment that burns time? Work trucks will work to make sure you have the perfect vehicle you have to have. They'll even find a perfect truck, outfit it, make sure it fits your needs to a T. Work trucks with an X, LLC.com. Proud supporters of the Tennessee Vols. Caleb, I want to turn to the college football recap, if you don't mind, right now. And we're going to talk about the Lady Vols. I know we've got a lot of people hanging tight for that, and we appreciate you doing so. But let's
do the recap or the SEC Power Rankings first?
Oh, let's do the SEC Power Rankings. I'm sorry, I got turned around. SEC Power Rankings is right now, or are right now. There we go. Caleb, I'm interested to see where you have Tennessee SEC Power Rankings right now as we dive into that. Go ahead and give me your 16 through 10 or so, and I'll tell you if I have a major issue, and even Peyton Manning will chime in with.
Like, that is total bullshit.
All right, 16 through 10, Caleb, what do you got?
All right, number 16 is still Mississippi State. They're the worst team in the SEC, and I don't think anybody's going to debate that.
No, they're bad.
Number 15 is Kentucky. I'm going Kentucky. I don't care that they beat Murray State or whoever that was over the weekend. Like, Kentucky is a bad football team too.
No, Kentucky is bad. I still don't understand how they beat Ole Miss, other than just Ole Miss not showing up to play, which should work against them in the college football playoff selection process. Go ahead.
Number 14 is Auburn, who got a bad Group of 5 win over the weekend, but still not good. Number 13 is Oklahoma. Number 12 is Vanderbilt. Dave, LSU's down at number 11. And you can make a case for Vanderbilt ahead of them right now with the way they're playing.
No, they've got problems there, and it seems like they've got some chemistry issues that I thought Georgia might have, but now that's crept up in Baton Rouge. And you, at one point, if you didn't see the clip, guys.
Actually, I want to play this for you because I want to, as part of our SEC Power Rankings, I want to ask you a question after I play this clip. Is that fair?
Yep, bring it up. He essentially calls a player, one of his own players, uncoachable. That, to me, is that's a card.
I mean, Brian Kelly's had a bad habit of throwing players and staff under the bus when they don't go his way. But if you guys see, LSU player is walking to the sideline and Brian Kelly lip reading. He says, "Don't walk away from me," and goes, "You are effing uncoachable." Yeah, no, that's what he says.
Couple things on that. Listen, when somebody is having
he said it too.
When somebody's having a bad day, okay, that's not the time in the middle of the game to rip them. You remember that everybody used to hate Philip Fulmer's little clapping when things would go south? That's actually, if you look up psychology of people, that's the right way to do it. You get on top of them when things are going good, and then you don't drive them into the ground when they know things are going bad. I don't know the particular play that happened there, but evidently the young man didn't do something he was supposed to do. So what's worse, Caleb, publicly calling somebody an idiot, as Kirby Smart did, or in the middle of the game calling somebody uncoachable?
I think calling somebody uncoachable in the middle of the game, because we're seeing the results of this. Look, this is, guys, one of the reasons Brian Kelly doesn't have a national championship and that he's underachieved at LSU, Dave, is I don't think he's able to inspire his players to want to play for him, because he does stuff like, I mean, this is, and I get it. I've always been on the IQ thing. Y'all know how I am with coaches. And I thought Brian Kelly was a high IQ head coach. But there is the other side of that, of you're getting your players wanting to play for you. It's the other side of Ed Orgeron, who is a low IQ coach. But whatever you think of Ed Orgeron, players want to play for him, like they do. And
Ed too, to his extent, to defend him for a little bit, that was an incredibly brilliant staff in 2019. And we could argue we could argue he wasn't the smartest coach, but he was smart enough to say, guys, I'm turning this over. I talked to somebody before that year, and they said, listen, if he's willing to turn everything over, that this team's loaded and going to be really good. But they didn't believe he would do it, that he would get involved at some point. And he never did. So we got to
All he did was rile the players up.
It is national championship winning head coach Ed Orgeron. And I know that still sounds bizarre. In the middle of defensive line drills, calling me out while I'm walking on the practice field.
Ed Orgeron and Steve Spurrier, only one of them has an undefeated season on their resume.
Just that's got to be a damn lie, Caleb. I mean, you've got to be lying. I mean, I know it's true, but somebody missed something in the record books. All right?
And so the reason I bring up that is I have to ask, with the LSU loss to Florida, is Brian Kelly's seat hotter than Billy Napier's now after what we just talked about?
I think it's comparable. I think it's very comparable. No, a month ago, I would have said there's no way anybody could catch Billy Napier in hot seat SEC issues. Please click that thumbs up button, the like button. We appreciate that, and make sure you're subscribed. All right, who's next after LSU is plummeting like a rock?
All right, another one. So next, the number 11 coach on this list. Whose seat is hotter? Brian Kelly's, or, since the Arkansas Razorbacks are number 11 on this list, Sam Pittman. Who do you think gets fired first, Dave?
Out of the three?
No, we'll get to Napier, but first, Kelly or Pittman?
Well, I just think it's stale at Arkansas. But I think both of them keep their jobs after this year.
But one of them's going to get fired eventually, right?
Well, then in that case, I would take who I think is the lesser coach between the two, and that is Sam Pittman.
Okay. All right. That's fair.
Would you?
Yes, because, Dave, I thought about this with Brian Kelly over the weekend. Someone compared Brian Kelly's start at LSU to Nick Saban's, and it's actually comparable. Brian Kelly hasn't been any worse. And now you could say Nick Saban inherited a bigger mess. I actually say he walked into a good situation with just inheriting a sleeping giant. Honestly, it's not like he inherited a mess. But one of the things that's brought up is LSU is the weirdest program in football the last 25 years. It's consistent 3 and 4 loss seasons, and then out of the blue, they go win a national title.
One of the reasons I wouldn't make a change if I'm LSU, if I were 50-50 on that, is because there's not Nick Saban. Nick Saban, we talked about how the state of Louisiana is the toughest to get prospects out of that LSU wants. That's true, except for Nick Saban. He built such an incredible recruiting base there when he was LSU's head coach that he was able to go into the state of Louisiana and cherry pick some guys. So I think Brian Kelly benefits from Nick Saban not being there, and that's not why I would want to. This wouldn't be the time to me to blow things up and start all over. All right, who's next, Caleb?
Yeah, I agree. All right, so next, when we're sticking with the hot seat coaches, I have Florida at number 10. Florida's a different team with DJ Lagway at quarterback. They were putting it together before Tennessee hurt DJ Lagway, which is why Florida put up a game against Tennessee.
Hurt Graham Mertz?
Lagway. No, Lagway got hurt against Tennessee.
Oh, yeah, they both did, right?
Yeah. Well, Mertz finished the game, but Lagway's a better quarterback.
No, he is. It makes you wonder why he wasn't playing earlier.
Yeah, where were the details of that? Number 9 is Missouri. We all knew they were going to lose, but they put up a fight. They actually had a South Carolina beat, but they fell to number 9. They're a 3-loss team, and they deserve to be a 3-loss team. Number 8 is Texas A&M. Texas A&M closed out the year at Auburn and Texas at home, though. Dave, Texas A&M has an amazing chance. If Texas A&M wins their next 2 games, they're going to go to the SEC title, and they're probably in the college football playoff. So they have a lot.
But yet you have them at 8th.
Yes, they haven't played well. They had that blowout loss to South Carolina a couple of weeks ago. So again, this is the problem with the way the SEC set up. It's stupid. So much of it is based on how lucky your draw was on your schedule. It's a dumb system. So
right. Who's next, Caleb?
Number 7 is Dave. You're going to hate it, but South Carolina. You have to acknowledge. I'm sorry. I believe I'm off. Florida's 9, Missouri's 8, Texas A&M is 7. I have A&M 7. Okay, so South Carolina is number 6. Dave, you got to give Shane Beamer some credit. South Carolina's playing really good football right now.
I give them a lot of credit. I'm waiting for the cheating scandal to break out.
They are a fluke play away from beating Alabama and being in the college football playoff race themselves.
All right, so do we get to Tennessee next? And we remind you that SEC Power Rankings today is brought to you by Dynasty Pools and Spas right off the Athens exit. Stop by and say hello. You'll get a free prize from Off the Hook Sports. And if you mention us, you get $500 off any spa in their inventory, which you can check out online. For Dynasty Pools and Spas, your home for the best spas and everything you need to jump right in. Relaxing, therapeutic, absolutely. But what sets Dynasty Pools and Spas apart from others is that you get everything with any spa purchase. You get the cover lift, the steps, delivery, and chemicals. When Dynasty Pools and Spas delivers your spa from their Athens location within 125 miles, you'll get your own personal hydrotherapy spa. Mention me, Dave Hooker, or Off the Hook Sports, and get $500 off your top quality new spa. Dynasty Pools and Spas, just off the Athens exit. Drop in and receive a free gift from Off the Hook Sports, Dynasty Pools and Spas. Mention Off the Hook Sports for a drop-in prize and that $500 discount, Dynasty Pools and Spas. To check out some of the Dynasty Spa models and to buy spa chemicals, go to dynastypoolsandspas.com. Dynasty Pools and Spas. Tennessee in the top 5. Who's next, Caleb?
Yeah, and unfortunately, guys, Tennessee's right at number 5. I can't put them higher right now. They're not playing better than the teams I'm about to name. Not only, I mean, let's just look at their last 3 games. Not only did they lose to Georgia, where they put up a fight, but they didn't blow out Mississippi State the way they should have. Now, they set on the lead in the second half. They could have, but they also looked really...
They lost Nico in the second half.
Yeah, but the week before that, they struggled to put away a Kentucky team that's kind of bad.
Yeah, I'm not debating with you on Mississippi State. To me, that's a bad football team that I take completely out of the equation, almost to the point of Kent State. When I'm looking at their resume, I almost take the Mississippi. I know it's an SEC game is the only reason I don't, but I almost take it completely off the table. All right, who's next?
I mean, you're not wrong, but yeah, it's okay. So number 4 is Alabama. They're number 4 right now, and they are playing very well. Number 3 is Georgia. Number 2 is Ole Miss, and number 1 is Texas. That's how I round out my top 4. Disagreement with any of those numbers?
Not really. Okay, of those in the top 4, who's most likely to lose before the end of the season?
Texas. They have to go to Texas A&M.
Mm-hmm. How do I think that Ole Miss has another bad Saturday in them?
Oh, they do. Don't sleep on Ole Miss against Florida this week. I don't think Lane Kiffin can get his kids to do a lot of things, Dave. You know what I'm not sure he can get his kids to do? Handle success. And you know that, by the way, because the Tennessee team you covered that had Lane Kiffin. Remember they played Alabama close, and then they go beat South Carolina, and everybody thinks they turned a corner? What happens? They go to Oxford, and they get draxed by Ole Miss, didn't they?
Yep, they did.
And so I don't know if Lane Kiffin is capable of teaching his kids to handle success. I think he gets as arrogant as they do, honestly.
Interesting that would filter down. Now, couldn't you say the same thing about Josh Heupel? Not the arrogance part of it, but that they don't handle success well. They didn't handle success well by beating Oklahoma and then went to Arkansas and got beat. They were on a little string there of beating Florida and Alabama, Mississippi State, Kentucky, and didn't handle success.
You're the one who says Heupel's a little cocky. It filters to the players.
It's pretty hot stuff right there. All right, I'll go with that. College football weekend recap. Or what games do I need to be most aware of? As I remind you that portions of the program brought to you by the UPS store Hardin Valley, helping individuals and small businesses. Wide range of products and services locally owned and operated by Tennessee fans. Right down below, there's the link, the UPS store Hardin Valley. What's your big takeaway from the college football weekend, Caleb?
All right, so a recap of the college football weekend. We'll start with the SEC since we just recapped the SEC, so I'll just kind of knock this out. But Brian Kelly replaces Billy Napier on the hot seat, I think, after LSU loses to Florida. I think you have legitimately seen a shift between the two schools because Florida's stuck with Billy Napier, and I think LSU, I don't know if they're stuck with Brian Kelly because of that contract, but that LSU loss, there should be some panic in Baton Rouge about the state of the
they're
program.
stuck with Brian Kelly, at least for one more year. Because of the
buyout.
You could always say that Oh, you could find a booster at a big time school like LSU or Tennessee and take care of a buyout. Can you really? Because you got $20 million, $24 million or so that's going to start coming out of the kitty next year because you have to pay players. So listen, I'm aware that Brian Kelly has lost a bad USC team, destroyed Alabama, destroyed by Alabama, destroyed by A&M, lost to Florida. I'm aware of all that stuff. Never led Ole Miss until the final play of the game. Might have lost to South Carolina if Lenore Sellers didn't get hurt. But the bottom line is it's a $60.8 million buyout. $60.8 million buyout. Listen, when it was $80 million for Jimbo Fisher, that bought him 2 more years at Texas A&M, and A&M has more money than LSU. So
yes.
You can't sit in there in a business meeting and argue that it's fiscally responsible to fire him. You cannot.
No, that's true. That's a very good point. You're right.
You'd be stroking a check for $60 million and then another $24 million that you didn't have planned in the budget for this year.
That's a good point. So you're right. They are stuck with him. No, what you're saying is right. So that's the first lead. The second lead is Georgia returning to form with their win over Tennessee. LSU losing reduces a little bit of the chaos in the SEC because they at least have 3 losses now, so they're out. The same with Missouri, because both of those teams could have very well finished 10-2, 6-2 in the conference, and that would have created chaos. But the chaos isn't done because you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 teams that have 2 losses or better. The 2 one-loss teams in the league, Texas and Texas A&M, have to play each other. So you're guaranteed to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The 5 teams with at least 2 losses and no more than 1 with 1 loss. And of those 5, if all chalk holds, Dave, you're going to have 5 teams at 6-2 jockeying to go to Atlanta for the SEC title game. And you're right, you may not want to jockey to go to Atlanta for the SEC title game, which could cause another loss, but then they're jockeying to get into the college football playoff. This is a total disaster, Dave, with the SEC and how they set this up. And I've called them out. I said it was stupid to go divisionless. It was stupid to set everything up the way they did and devalue the SEC title game. And they got a mess on their hands because of it.
I thought of an answer to your question of devaluing the SEC title game.
What is it?
The loser of the SEC title game should be ruled out of the playoffs.
But then people would purposely lose to not go to the SEC title.
Yeah, but then you're taking the destiny out of your hands.
Yeah. See, I take Josh.
You got to give me this. It's no worse than what's going on right now. That
it's not.
Championship game is meaningless.
It's a total joke. Josh Pate actually brought this up to us on our show when he was on before the Alabama game, and I think he's right. We have 1 more year of this playoff system. That's what Blake Topmeyer told us last year too. I think the SEC and the Big Ten are going to work a system in where their championship game will be part of the playoff.
Can you do me a favor? Can you jot down, because I got a pen that won't work. Can you jot down tomorrow? I want to do what you would change about the college football playoff. Because I got a couple of different ideas. So that's a topic for tomorrow. Rest of the recap from college football.
All right. So moving on to the other teams. Let's go to the Big 12. BYU loses to Kansas. They should have lost to Utah. They have effectively killed any chance of 2 Big 12 teams in the college football playoff because it's BYU and Colorado playing for the Big 12 title. The winner is going, the loser is not. By the way, though, if BYU beats Colorado, you don't think Deion's going to try to jockey for a 3-loss Colorado to get into the college football playoff? Of course he will, but I don't think the committee will fall for it. So the winner goes, the loser doesn't.
Did you see how hard he is forcing Travis Hunter to win the Heisman?
Oh, yes. He's working.
I mean, he plays almost every play on offense. And they had him try to throw the ball at one point for a touchdown pass. I don't know if you caught that. A lot was going on over the weekend, and he struck the Heisman pose after. I go back to Deion Sanders when he was at Dallas, and he was so frustrated they didn't play him more on offense. So he's totally letting his past experiences affect his coaching with Travis Hunter. I mean, at some point, that's too many snaps in a football game to play 80 or.
Oh, I agree. And Dave, here's the crazy part. What's going to happen if Colorado beats BYU? They get into the playoff and they have a chance at maybe pulling out a win, but Travis Hunter's hurt.
Or I'm tired.
Yeah, that could happen. I agree. Now you could say maybe it's smart for Deion Sanders. If he's committed to Colorado, it's good for recruiting purposes, because isn't it more important to say you got a Heisman winner and you got to the college football playoff your first year and then you can recruit and get more talent? That's really where his mindset.
What's more likely, that he does that? Okay, let's say that Deion makes the college football playoff and Travis Hunter wins the Heisman. What's more likely, that he stays and reaps the benefits there at Colorado, or he's the head coach at Florida or for the Dallas Cowboys next year?
Dallas. It's Dallas.
I'm telling you, that's not outside the realm of possibility. The guy that you need to listen to in the NFL that's tied in is Rex Ryan. He comes across as a dope a lot of times, but when he says something, kind of like I do at times, he's giving you something on inside information. And he's reported that he thinks Deion lands at Dallas because he would bring pride back to Dallas. Anyway, that's a big mess. But nevertheless, let's get back to the college football playoff, where things are never orchestrated or messed up by rich men. Huh?
Never. Right. So, again, this is why I hate divisionless conference title games, because it's hard to pick the top team. The ACC race has now gotten very interesting with Clemson beating Pitt over the weekend. By the way, did you see Pitt allow Clemson, Cade Klubnik, the quarterback, to run 50 yards for a touchdown with seconds left?
I did. Cade Clubfoot looked pretty good. All right.
So here's why that's interesting. Clemson's SMU, Dave. SMU is undefeated in ACC play. They're favored to finish perfect. Clemson has a loss and Miami has a loss. None of those teams play each other. Who goes? Who goes to play SMU? Who goes to dethrone the king of SMU? The king that is SMU.
I don't know. Miami, I think, is a slightly better football team, but where would either of those teams rank in the SEC? We just did the power rankings.
6th or 7th. Clemson might 6th or 7th. 6th or 7th. And the thing is, it's big for the ACC, because the ACC is only getting one team into the playoff, and it's whoever wins the title. So the ACC title game matters, Dave, and so does the Big 12 title. But they have these tiebreakers for these 1 and 2 loss teams because they don't all play each other, but they have no divisions. This is why the whole scenario is stupid. But I ranted against that from the start. I keep ranting against it. So, I mean, you thought three-way ties back in the day were going to cause chaos, and that happened, once every blue moon? One time. This is going to be a thing every year. So, moving on, I want to point out Notre Dame staying alive. But I'm just going to point this out. They're staying alive because they won over the weekend against Virginia and looked good, and they have that quality win over Texas A&M. But Dave, their schedule strength is actually much lower than people think. It's outside of the top 80. And so I get people wanting to call out Indiana and Penn State, and I'm about to, but I don't know how you can call them out and not call out Notre Dame too.
Okay. Who's next? Caleb Calhoun?
All right, moving on to some Big Ten ball. Oregon survived their biggest test of the year. People are going to say they look weak by struggling to beat Wisconsin on the road. I say, and I think you say, Dave, that's a tough environment, and week in a week out game, you go win that game, you deserve all the credit in the world as a number one team, because that's when you can slip up, and they held on and firm and they won. Big Ten race is down to 4 or 3 teams. It's all but certain that Ohio State, Penn State, and Oregon are in. The only question is if Indiana will be the 4th team in. And so the whole number of Big Ten teams going comes down to Indiana versus Ohio State.
All right. I got something for you in our college football recap for the weekend. You tell me when you got your last one.
All right. I got a couple more. And then, break it down. Group of 5 race is down to Boise State. Army still undefeated, but Tulane's creeping in too, Dave. And Tulane, if they win the American, they have a very strong case at 2 losses to be the best team. The Heisman race is Shedeur Sanders, Jackson Dart, Cam Ward, Travis Hunter, and Dylan Gabriel. My top 10, and this is my very hot takey top 10, Dave. But Oregon is number 1. Ohio State's number 2. Texas is number 3. Georgia's number 4. Indiana's number 5. Penn State's number 6. Alabama's number 7. Tennessee's number 8. Ole Miss number 9. I got BYU at number 10. BYU's got a tougher strength of schedule than Notre Dame. So sorry, BYU's ahead of Notre Dame in my top 10.
That's hot.
All right, where do you think Tennessee would fall in the old BCS formula?
In the old BCS formula, I'm pretty sure if you factor in quality wins and how they did schedule strength in polls, I think Tennessee would probably be right at number 8.
Okay. Well, I've got that for you. Number 1, no doubt, Oregon, right?
Mm-hmm.
Number 2 would be Texas. Number 3 would be BYU. And I'm a formula guy. I think it takes the subjectivity out of it. So this is what I would do if I were the king of college football. Now, you wouldn't be able to do a college football playoff committee ranking show, which is what they're doing because they can sell that to advertisers. Number 4, Miami. And then you would have number 5, Ohio State, that would be theoretically hosting Boise State in a college football playoff. Then you'd have Penn State at number 6 hosting Georgia. And then you would have number 7, Indiana, hosting Alabama. Well, I'll go ahead and tell you, there's no way in hell they're going to do that because that game would be at Tuscaloosa, right?
Yes, exactly.
And they would just manipulate it.
They would manipulate it. There's no way they're going to have Alabama go to Indiana to play a football game.
And then Tennessee would be number 8 hosting Notre Dame still after the weekend.
That's not implausible, by the way. That'd be a heck of a game.
Tennessee, according to the old BCS, would come in.
By the way, BCS formula changed multiple times, though.
Yes, but this is the latest one, the last one that was used.
Okay, so the coaches, the Harris, and the computers.
Yes, Tennessee would be number 6 in that poll. It'd be Oregon, Ohio State, Texas, Penn State, Indiana, Tennessee, BYU, Notre Dame, Alabama, Georgia. I'll still argue with you. You can talk about strength of schedule, and we can talk about resume, but Tennessee is hands down one of the top 8 teams in the country. And I don't think it's a stretch to go top 6 as the old BCS formula would have them.
The question is, it's not about being a top 8 team. It's about being it's a top 7 at large team. Are they a top 7 at large team? Which I think you're probably right, because if in the top 8 are going to be the Big Ten and SEC champions. So
no, you're right. But does that surprise you that Tennessee would be 6 in the old BCS formula?
No, it doesn't. Look, there's a schedule strength factor here that Tennessee's is somewhat underrated. And so I could actually see how that plays out. Look, guys, the crazy part is we got 2 weeks left. There's a lot of football left to be played. So we're parsing all this out, and things could work out, but they could not work out. And one of the things, here's what's going to annoy me, Dave. You know what's really going to annoy me? Super much. Say there's a series of upsets where things just work out, so it's very clear who deserves to play for the conference title games and who's the top 12. It's just no debate. You know what's going to happen then, right? The CFP committee is going to come in, and Greg Sankey's going to come and be like, see, all you had to do was wait for it to play itself out, and it was going to be fine. And so an example of that is in 98, you remember upset Saturday, right? When Tennessee beat Mississippi State, but earlier that day, Kansas State and Miami were lost, and UCLA were lost, right? When they were both undefeated. Roy Kramer went into the booth with Bob Greasy and Keith Jackson, who were calling the SEC title game, and he said, everybody was just too impatient. I told you, if you guys just waited, it was going to work itself out. As if that couldn't have gone the other way, and as if the BCS was never going to have controversy in the future when he said that. Of course it was.
Very good. All right, Lady Vols over the weekend, they defeat Liberty 109-93 on Saturday at the Food City Center, brought to you by Kroger's. Your take on the Lady Vols and what they were able to do against Liberty, 109-93. Man, that's a lot of freaking points.
It was. Talasia Cooper was the star. She dropped 33 points in the game. It's pretty much everything we're talking about with the Lady Vols. They got some glaring holes, guys, on this team, but they are going to be a fun team to watch. Think about the first team Josh Heupel coached at Tennessee in 2021 that went 7-6. Now you expect them to be better than that because the gap is just not the same. It's just a lot deeper in women's college basketball, but they're going to put on a show. The real story of the weekend is, on top of beating Liberty, they added another commitment, a 4-star guard, Jada Civil, out of Vero Beach, Florida. They now have 4 players committed for 2025. The Paulden twins, the 5-star wing that they picked up last week, and now Jada Civil. We have to be honest, Dave, that this is where – so Denia Apparel is the 5-star that committed last week too, for those who are curious. But Kim Caldwell is actually – this is the real story. She's going the traditional route. She is recruiting extremely well, and her system is so entertaining that you're going to see a lot of fun this year, and then you're going to see a lot more competent play next year in the next couple of years. I think that, look, just enjoy watching them this year because they're going to be chaotic, but they have a lot of talent coming in.
But is there a player back in the day, whether or not it was Maya Moore, Candace Parker, Shamiqua Holdsclaw, there was a player every year that was far and above better than everybody else in the women's recruiting game. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
Is there that player anymore, or has the game leveled itself out? And the Stewart girl would be another one. Stewart Lady would be another
Brianna
one.
Stewart, who may be the greatest player of all time now. But yeah.
And now the young lady who is doing so well in the WNBA, her name escapes me all of a sudden.
Caitlin Clark?
Yes, Caitlin Clark. Sorry. Now, we didn't know that about Caitlin Clark, but is there a player anymore that you think is just a transformational figure in a program, or is it more about quantity over quality?
Oh, it's more about quantity over quality, Dave.
I don't even think it's close.
You just named Brianna Stewart. Did you know she's the last player of the year to win a national championship the same year?
No, that's been what, a decade ago?
2016. Yeah, that's the last time UConn won it. Kelsey Plum was player of the year in 2017. South Carolina won it. Aja Wilson was player of the year in 2018. I believe Notre Dame won it that year. Megan Gustafson was player of the year in 2019. Iowa didn't win it. Sabrina Ionescu was player of the year in 2020, but there was no tournament because of COVID. Paige Bueckers 2021. Aaliyah Boston 2022. South Carolina didn't win it that year. Caitlin Clark, each of the last two. I'm sorry, South Carolina did win it in 2022. Aaliyah Boston was player of the year in 2022, and South Carolina won it. But she's the only player since Brianna Stewart in 2016 to do it. Caitlin Clark was player of the year the last 2 years. They didn't win it either year.
Yeah, I think you've got to be an overall better coach. I think you've got to have a system.
And I think, and one of the things we're forgetting too is, like we talked about, you're right. That wasn't always the case, what we're talking about anyway. The first time this really happened was when Rebecca Lobo went to UConn. And that really kind of changed the course of women's college basketball. Wouldn't you agree, Dave? When Gina Auriemma got Rebecca Lobo and she went and won a national title, and that really sent a message that UConn was going to be a competitor to Pat Summitt. But when we talk about Shamika Holtzclaw, but let's be honest. I mean, that was the first two titles, but she had Tamika Catchings and Samika Randall on that other 97-98 team. And all of those could have been players of the year that year. I think the more era for Tennessee was the only time they were really like that, where they were just player led, was Candace Parker era. What was it that Colin said about Michael Jordan that one time? Give the ball to Michael and everybody else get the F out of the way. That was Pat Summitt's strategy with Candace Parker.
No, but remember this about Candace too. I mean, she wasn't a fantastic leader in year number one. They sat her when she was in Chicago because she was late on curfew, which was her hometown. So, I mean, it took Candace a while.
It did. Candace was also battling injury that year. So it was I think it was the easy way to send a message while also get her fully healthy and have her take a red shirt that year, which she did. So, I mean, I get what you're saying. And they did lose to North Carolina in the Elite Eight in her first year actually playing with the Lady Vols. But then, I mean, it was all her from there on out. I think particularly with Kim Caldwell's system, Dave, you're definitely not going to need a go-to player because she runs so much chaos. She runs so much tempo. It is the new version. You're watching the new version of 40 Minutes of Hell, guys. If you ever turn them on and watch them play, it is Nolan Richardson reincarnated for the 21st century. I don't know why Arkansas ever went away from 40 Minutes of Hell. If you ask me, that was a heck of a brand of basketball to watch.
Well, I think you got to have the roster. I mean, you got to be able to go 8 deep at minimum, more like 10 deep.
No, you're right. That is true. Which is why Bruce Pearl, he kind of brought it back at Tennessee with a different twist. He would go 10 and 11 deep, and he would use walk-ons if he had to because he knew his depth was more important than anything.
When it's all said and done, Talisha Cooper had 33 points, 12 of 20 shooting, 9 rebounds, 3 assists, and 2 steals. If I gave you 3 options, she will be mentioned as an all-time Lady Vol great. She won't be. You feel certain in that, or the jury's still out? Would you think that Talisha Cooper could reach those sort of heights?
No, she can't reach those sort of heights. I don't think anybody on this team can, quite honestly. Talisha Cooper was taking advantage of she did hit 2 3s to her credit, so she was able to stretch the court, and she's playing the 4, and she's averaging 19 points a game and 7 rebounds. But again, this is kind of like the Austin P game on the other side for the men. Liberty's a small basketball team. And I mean, this is going to be a thing.
Do you consider Carol Lawson an all-time great?
She flirts with the starting 5 for Tennessee, but no, I don't.
Okay. Is Talisha Cooper at that level? I know they don't play the same position.
Yeah, I could see her at Carol Lawson's level. I could absolutely see her at Carol Lawson's level. And by the way, Carol Lawson is fringe all-time great. Like if you're doing an all-time great Lady Vols, you're going Candace Parker, Shamika Holtzclaw, Bridget Gordon. I mean, that's just the golden 3 right there. And then like that is tier 1. Everybody else is a tier below those 3 players in Lady Vols basketball history.
All right, good stuff. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button. And I want to remind you of this because I got something cool. You ready for something cool, Caleb? You want to see something cool?
I want to see something cool.
All right, check it out. Thanks to our friends, Rick Terry Jewelry Design. They want to be your jeweler. Go to rickterry.com. Here is the Garmin. Look at this thing. It's orange and white as well, worth over $1,000 that we're going to be giving away. And all you have to do is be subscribed to this channel and be a member of Hooker's Corner. There's the QR code right there, just $9.98. And when you see that, you'll see a lot of increased recruiting coverage, more interaction with me and Caleb Calhoun. You'll also be registered for another fantastic prize, which is also over my shoulder. And that is this right here. This is the John Henderson autographed mini helmet. And it's brought to you by our friends at Sports Treasures. Sports Treasures, over 5 million Sports Treasures in North Knoxville. They've been there for 35 years. So there's the QR code. If we can drop the link as well, Caleb, in there, we would encourage you to be a part of Hooker's Corner, more interaction with me and Caleb Calhoun as well. As I remind you, portions of the program brought to you by Asia Cafe, asiacafe.org. Asia Cafe, where I ate yesterday, as a matter of fact, and it was delicious. It is Asian cuisine, handcrafted from guarded family recipes, 5 locations to choose from. And they've got that incredible Brazilian energy booster cocoa white coffee that my wife has every morning. It's unbelievable. The Asia Cafe, and you can order that on asiacafe.org. Again, join up on Hooker's Corner. We want you to be a part of that, increased recruiting coverage, and more. For Caleb Calhoun, I'm Dave Hooker. This has been a presentation of Off the Hook Sports, the show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com.